Hello, I'm Darren again. Today's topic is the second part in a series looking at intimacy and relationships. In the first video, I looked at the importance of intimacy and why it can sometimes be lacking in a relationship. In this video, I'm going to be looking at how intimacy can be withheld or controlled in a relationship with a narcissistic person. So I'm going to outline some of the reasons why they may withhold love and affection and give some examples of how. So if you find this video interesting, please consider subscribing to my channel. And when it comes to narcissistic people, many of their relationships, many of their interactions tend to be surface level. There's no real depth to them. And one of the reasons for this is that people with very strong narcissistic traits tend to struggle with intimacy. They can be very defensive, go to great lengths to keep others at an emotional arm's length. But it is important to note that although narcissists struggle with intimacy, not everybody with narcissistic traits will struggle to the same extent. It often depends on the individual and the context of the relationship. As I often say, it's never a one size fits all. Also, narcissists tend to lack insight. They might be aware that they feel uncomfortable with something, but they're not quite sure what that discomfort is or what it means. Now, that being said, at the more extreme end of the spectrum, sometimes we're talking about the dark personality types. Well, they might not fully understand either, but in some cases they do. They have what's known as a dark empathy, so they're aware of what they're doing and the impact it has. In some cases, they enjoy keeping others in a state of strain, misery, and disappointment. They get a kick out of ruining things for other people. But the nature of their behaviors and their motivations depend on many underlying factors, often related to their personality traits and psychological dynamics. But in a relationship with a narcissistic person, sometimes it seems as if there will always be something to ruin a moment, even a special moment. For instance, they could start a huge argument just before going out somewhere. Or, and this would be more common with covert narcissism, you might hear things like, well, the concert was wonderful, it was really great, but I had a sore head. Or the sex was wonderful, but I have a sore leg. Sometimes it seems as if they're incapable of enjoying themselves or allowing anyone else to enjoy themselves. It's like there's always something to sour the moment. Narcissists can also be quite disagreeable, and one of the ways that this can manifest is by refusing or rejecting anything that is offered or asked for by their partners. So, some of the reasons why they might control or withhold intimacy and affection is, first of all, their lack of empathy. Narcissists have a difficulty experiencing and understanding the emotions and the needs of others. As I said a moment ago, sometimes they do. They have what's known as a dark empathy. So they are aware of what they're doing. Sometimes it's maybe part of the plan. Sometimes they just don't care. And narcissists tend to view relationships as a means of gaining admiration, validation, and control, rather than a genuine emotional connection. They tend to engage in relationships primarily for self-serving purposes. That's why others are sometimes referred to as a narcissistic supply. They serve a purpose. They have an excessive preoccupation with their own needs, their own desires, their own concerns. They prioritize their own gratification and validation above the emotional needs and desires of others, even their partners. And this makes it difficult for any kind of connection on an emotional level. And the self-centeredness can hinder their ability to prioritize the well-being of their partner or indeed the well-being of the relationship. But that being said, with their dark empathy, they might know what others want, what others need. They also know what to withhold in order to coerce, manipulate, and punish. Because narcissistic people tend to have a need for control and superiority in their relationships. So any kind of emotional intimacy can bring up a vulnerability that could challenge their need for control. It could expose them to situations where they might not be able to maintain that power dynamic. It's often when their maladaptive defense mechanisms kick in, so they either avoid it or they shut it down. They can often be quite guarded against intimacy, as it could require them to reveal their insecurities, their weaknesses, their fears, and this threatens their sense of grandiosity, their superiority, even their invincibility. Now, the thing is, when a relationship is new, they can be very passionate, they can be very attentive. But when the relationship is no longer new, or perhaps it no longer provides them with the excitement or admiration they crave, or maybe even when the partner needs more than just superficial connection, that's when they begin to resist and that's when they begin to withdraw. That's when they can become more controlling, more manipulative. They have learned what the partner likes, what they don't like, so they know what buttons to push, what to offer conditionally, in order to keep the partner hooked, but also what to withdraw in order to manipulate and punish. Here we see the forming of what's known as trauma bonding. Another reason for the lack of intimacy and connection can be that many narcissistic people view others as objects. They're just objects there to meet their needs rather than individuals with their own emotions, desires, autonomy. Again, they're primarily focused on using others for their own gratification, and this can hinder any kind of meaningful emotional connection. So, there are just some of the reasons why narcissistic people have difficulties with intimacy and closeness. Now, let's look at some of the common ways they keep their partners close yet keep them at an emotional arm's length. And first of all, it's by having unrealistic expectations and standards. A characteristic of narcissism is a huge sense of entitlement. Whatever it is they want, they believe they deserve it, often without having to do anything to earn it, and this is kind of parasitical. So they might expect the relationship to be perfect, but it is the partner who has to put the work in. Now, they might say things like, "We will be closer, we will be more intimate, things will be better when this relationship is perfect." Well, first of all, perfect doesn't exist. Secondly, without intimacy or any kind of connection, the relationship isn't even going to be healthy. Now, if the partner were to ask, what exactly does perfect mean? They might not be able to answer, or if they do, they might just get a lot of word salad and circular reasoning, or perhaps a list of things that the partner has to do. And the demands, the expectations constantly shift. The partner is never good enough. The partner can never do enough. Secondly, they can withhold affection and intimacy as a way of emotionally manipulating their partner's feelings and their actions. They might withhold intimacy and sex as a means to punish their partner for either not meeting their demands or for their perceived wrongdoings. This kind of manipulation can create a sense of insecurity and dependence, keeping the partner under their control. The partner becomes reliant on them for emotional and physical connection, and it strengthens their position of power and control. By depriving the partner of affectionate gestures, they create a sense of longing in the partner, making them more likely to comply with their desires. They use sex, they use affection, they use intimacy as a way to gain leverage or to exert dominance. It creates a dynamic where the partner feels obligated to comply. Now, it's either maybe just to maintain some level of harmony or to avoid conflict. By withholding, by withdrawing affection, they can elicit feelings of guilt and shame, but the partner feels this need to try and please them in order to try and regain their favor. Again, as I mentioned earlier on, here we see the trauma bonding. Many people who have been in narcissistic relationships often comment how everything was on the narcissist's terms, even the sex. If it ever happened, it was when they wanted it, how they wanted it, and where they wanted it. And it would be withdrawn until the partner complies again. But another way of avoiding emotional intimacy is through gaslighting and blame shifting. For instance, the couple might have a lovely romantic evening. Maybe they go away to a nice hotel, they have a lovely romantic evening, and they both have a great time together. The following day, or maybe over the next few days, the narcissist might seem a bit distant. They're not as funny as they were, they're not as playful, they're not saying all the romantic things they had the night before. They may even claim they didn't really like the place, or they didn't like the meal, or they only went for the partner. These distortions keep the partner from getting too close emotionally and keeps them in a state of disappointment. Blame shifting is often a tactic to deflect responsibility. If the partner were to express dissatisfaction or a desire for more intimacy, the narcissist might shift blame onto the partner. "You're not treating me with enough respect," or again, "It'll be different when the relationship is perfect." They might even say things like, "What are you talking about? We did it last Christmas." They make the partner doubt their own perceptions, making them feel needy, guilty, or inadequate. Now, anything they might do, they might make a big deal of it. "Do you see how much I love you?" And lastly, another way to create and keep an emotional distance is to continually compare the partner to others. Now, it could be with an ex partner, how they were the love of their life. It's just a shame things didn't work out. But hey, oh well, I'm with you now. So they can't fully commit because they had their heart broken by someone the partner could never replace, even a decade later. They could be constantly discussing other people, how they would make a more ideal partner. This is what's known as induced jealousy, and I have made videos on induced jealousy previously if you want to check those out. But there are different reasons for narcissists inducing jealousy in their partners, but one of the things that isn't mentioned in the research, which I believe, is that it is a way of keeping that emotional distance. It's a way of preventing that emotional connection. Now, in a relationship with a narcissistic person, people only have so much capacity, they only have so much patience. Sooner or later, they're as done. Sooner or later, they realize there is no rainbow, never mind a pot of gold at the end of it. And that's when all of the things that the narcissist had been withholding start to come out in little drips and drabs in order to try and entice that person back again. So, to summarize, narcissists can control sex and intimacy in a relationship for many reasons that align with their maladaptive defense mechanisms, their manipulative and self centered tendencies. It's usually because of their need for control and domination, but more often than not, it's because of their fear of intimacy, the fear of someone else seeing them perhaps as they really are. Now, the irony is they do tend to show their real selves through their selfishness, their lack of empathy, and their disagreeableness. They want to be loved, admired, considered to be the best lover ever, regardless of how they perform in bed or what little they do to show affection. And they behave as if they know what's best for the partner, what the partner wants, likes, needs. And if the partner doesn't want it or it's not enough, there's something wrong with the partner. I think that the curse of narcissism is that they want to be loved, they want to be admired, they want to be validated. Why not? Everybody else does. But the very things they do tend to be the very things that drive others away and alienate them. Their demand for perfection ruins everything with their unreasonable demands, sometimes their harebrained schemes. And although their behaviors do tend to be self-defeating, in so many cases they just seem to keep doing the same things over and over again. So that's a brief outline of how and why narcissistic people often withhold sex, intimacy, affection in their relationships. Now, as always, there are other things I could have added, so if there's anything I've missed, anything you'd like to add, please use the comment box below. There are some interesting conversations start from these videos. But if you find this video interesting, if you find it helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel, and until next time, thanks for watching.